Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. My homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the Supremely Enlightened One. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May our respect to our teacher, Pinat Loku Swamin Wahanse. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. First, let's listen to the sutta again, the teaching, the first discourse of the Buddha, the motion of Dhamma wheel. When we go through the teaching, we have to remember one special thing. So this is more often our teacher says when we learning teachings. So we have to bring the Shraddha. Yes, of course, Sarda with us today in the meeting. I'm saying this in here, Shraddha means the confidence towards the Buddha. So the confidence towards the Buddha means that's what we should have when we listen. That when we go through some teaching, usually we can go through a teaching in different ways, like just listening with the just to know whether he is saying true, or sometimes we can just judge by the words. But if you can remember, last week we discussed that if anyone, especially the monk Kondanya, the first monk who attained the stream entrance level, he had confidence towards Buddha while the other four was still judgmental. So because of that, the other four couldn't attain that stream entrance level, but the Kondanya, the monk Kondanya, able to attain the stream entrance level. So how that benefit came, the benefit came because they had confidence towards what Buddha is saying. So likewise, when we are listening to this, we have to take off all the frames and our point of views. Then we are clear to listen what Buddha is saying. When we clear our mind and when we listen that, if it is a truth, so then we can understand that. So that means we can see it in ourselves. So now think that we all somehow got a chance to time travel, and we are sitting next to the first Dhamma discourse is delivering to the 5 monks, and we are next to them, the Buddha and the 5 monks. So we are just listening to the Buddha. So likewise, so if we are listening to the Buddha, that means one who is enlightened. So you are waiting to hear what he has understood. So you don't know what is noble truths yet. So because this is the first time Buddha is going to teach us the Four Noble Truths. So let's listen to this teaching once again, like the listening to the first time. So then you will find kind of a amazing thing building within you, that is confidence towards Buddha. And in the same way, you will find that you can understand the meanings. So if you can visualize in your mind and keep your eyes closed and listen, that way also never mind. If you just want to keep go through the sutta while listening, it's also never mind. So somehow try to bring your focus to the teaching. So since I am not good at reading and my English is not so good, so let's go with the this nice translation. It's done by a monk. I don't know his name, but his voice is very soothing. You have to tell me whether you can hear it clearly.
Pattanasutta, in English, Setting in Motion the Wheel of the Dhamma, the Buddha's first discourse, which is found in the Samyutta Nikaya, in the Satya Samyutta, as Sutta number 11. Thus have I heard. On one occasion the Blessed One was dwelling at Varanasi in the deer park at Isipatana. There the Blessed One addressed the bhikkhus of the group of 5 thus: Bhikkhus, these 2 extremes should not be followed by one who has gone forth into homelessness. What 2? The pursuit of sensual happiness and sensual pleasures, which is low, vulgar, the way of worldlings, ignoble, unbeneficial. And the pursuit of self-mortification, which is painful, ignoble, unbeneficial. Without veering towards either of these extremes, the Tathagata has awakened to the middle way, which gives rise to vision, which gives rise to knowledge, which leads to peace, to direct knowledge, to enlightenment, to nibbana. And what, bhikkhus, is that middle way awakened to by the Tathagata, which gives rise to vision, which gives rise to knowledge, which leads to peace, to direct knowledge, to enlightenment, to nibbana? It is this noble eightfold path, that is, right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. This, bhikkhus, is that middle way awakened to by the Tathagata, which gives rise to vision, which gives rise to knowledge, which leads to peace, to direct knowledge, to enlightenment, to nibbana. Now this, bhikkhus, is the noble truth of suffering. Birth is suffering. Aging is suffering. Illness is suffering. Death is suffering. Union with what is displeasing is suffering. Separation from what is pleasing is suffering. Not to get what one wants is suffering. In brief, the 5 aggregates subject to clinging are suffering. Now this, bhikkhus, is the noble truth of the origin of suffering. It is this craving which leads to renewed existence, accompanied by delight and lust, seeking delight here and there, that is, craving for sensual pleasures, craving for existence, craving for extermination. Now this, bhikkhus, is the noble truth of the cessation of suffering. It is the remainderless fading away and cessation of that same craving, the giving up and relinquishing of it, freedom from it, non-reliance on it. Now this, bhikkhus, is the noble truth of the way leading to the cessation of suffering. It is this noble eightfold path, that is, right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. This is the noble truth of suffering. Thus, bhikkhus, in regard to things unheard before, there arose in me vision, knowledge, wisdom, true knowledge, and light. This noble truth of suffering is to be fully understood. Thus, bhikkhus, in regard to things unheard before, there arose in me vision, knowledge, wisdom, true knowledge, and light. This noble truth of suffering has been fully understood. Thus, bhikkhus, in regard to things unheard before, there arose in me vision, knowledge, wisdom, true knowledge, and light. This is the noble truth of the origin of suffering. Thus, bhikkhus, in regard to things unheard before, there arose in me vision, knowledge, wisdom, true knowledge, and light. This noble truth of the origin of suffering is to be abandoned. Thus, bhikkhus, in regard to things unheard before, there arose in me vision, knowledge, wisdom, true knowledge, and light. This noble truth of the origin of suffering has been abandoned. Thus, bhikkhus, in regard to things unheard before, there arose in me vision, knowledge, wisdom, true knowledge, and light. This is the noble truth of the cessation of suffering. Thus, bhikkhus, in regard to things unheard before, there arose in me vision, knowledge, wisdom, true knowledge, and light. This noble truth of the cessation of suffering is to be realized. Thus, bhikkhus, in regard to things unheard before, there arose in me vision, knowledge, wisdom, true knowledge, and light. This noble truth of the cessation of suffering has been realized. Thus, bhikkhus, in regard to things unheard before, there arose in me vision, knowledge, wisdom, true knowledge, and light. This is the noble truth of the way leading to the cessation of suffering. Thus, bhikkhus, in regard to things unheard before, there arose in me vision, knowledge, wisdom, true knowledge, and light. This noble truth of the way leading to the cessation of suffering is to be developed. Thus, bhikkhus, in regard to things unheard before, there arose in me vision, knowledge, wisdom, true knowledge, and light. This noble truth of the way leading to the cessation of suffering has been developed. Thus, bhikkhus, in regard to things unheard before, there arose in me vision, knowledge, wisdom, true knowledge, and light. So long, bhikkhus, as my knowledge and vision of these Four Noble Truths, as they really are, in their 3 phases and 12 aspects, was not thoroughly purified in this way, I did not claim to have awakened to the unsurpassed perfect enlightenment in this world, with its devas, Mara, and Brahma, in this generation with its ascetics and Brahmins, its devas and humans. But when my knowledge and vision of these Four Noble Truths, as they really are, in their 3 phases and 12 aspects, was thoroughly purified in this way, then I claim to have awakened to the unsurpassed perfect enlightenment in this world with its devas, Mara, and Brahma, in this generation with its ascetics and Brahmins, its devas and humans. The knowledge and vision arose in me. Unshakable is the liberation of my mind. This is my last birth. Now there is no more renewed existence. This is what the Blessed One said. Elated, the bhikkhus of the group of 5 delighted in the Blessed One's statement. And while this discourse was being spoken, there arose in the Venerable Kondanya the dust-free, stainless vision of the Dhamma. Whatever is subject to origination is all subject to cessation. And when the wheel of the Dhamma had been set in motion by the Blessed One, the earth-dwelling devas raised a cry. At Varanasi, in the deer park at Isipatana, this unsurpassed wheel of the Dhamma has been set in motion by the Blessed One, which cannot be stopped by any ascetic, or Brahmin, or Deva, or Mara, or Brahma, or by anyone in the world. Having heard the cry of the earth-dwelling devas, the devas of the realm of the 4 great kings raised a cry. At Varanasi, this unsurpassed wheel of the Dhamma has been set in motion by the Blessed One, which cannot be stopped by anyone in the world. Having heard the cry of the devas of the realm of the 4 great kings, the Tavatimsa devas, the Yama devas, the Tusita devas, the Nimanarati devas, the Paranimitta Vasavati devas, the devas of Brahma's company raised a cry. At Varanasi, in the deer park at Isipatana, this unsurpassed wheel of the Dhamma has been set in motion by the Blessed One, which cannot be stopped by any ascetic, or Brahmin, or Deva, or Mara, or Brahma, or by anyone in the world. Thus at that moment, at that instant, at that second, the cry spread as far as the Brahma world, and this 10,000-fold world system shook, quaked, and trembled, and an immeasurable glorious radiance appeared in the world, surpassing the divine majesty of the devas. Then the Blessed One uttered this inspired utterance. Kondanya has indeed understood. Kondanya has indeed understood. In this way, the Venerable Kondanya acquired the name Anya Kondanya, Kondanya who is understood.
Okay. So This is a very nice sutra. So let's go through this. So we learned the first part, so I'm going to brief it. After Buddha enlightened, so he was discouraged to teach Dhamma teachings because he felt like no one will understand this deep teaching. So and then there was a Brahma, and he came to Buddha and told him that see look around the world, when there are wise people, when you teach they will understand. And then Buddha see this world like a pond where there are some lotus buds and which are under the water, hasn't came out of the water yet. Even the sunrises, they don't bloom, but there are some lotus buds, so they are waiting to sunrise to bloom. So likewise, there are wise people living uh, in the world. So the only thing is they need to listen, they need to get a chance to hear the universal truths of the realities of the life. So by seeing like this world like that, so Buddha encouraged to teach his teachings, and he first started to teach it. He seek to teach this to his first two teachers, who when he was the bodhisattva, while he's seeking the path to the seeking attain the enlightenment. So he went to two teachers who had experience of meditations like formless level, and they both died and reborn in Brahma world, where they have a huge lifespan and they don't have ability to listen like mind, like fully focused state. So then Buddha thought of sharing this teaching with five ascetic monks who helped when Buddha giving pain to his body, because for almost like 6 years bodhisattva before he attained the Buddhahood, he tried to give pain to this body to eradicate the ego within himself. So that was the path people believed at that time to attain the enlightenment. And then he understood it's not the right way, and he stepped down from that and practiced that this middle path. And at that very moment, all the five ascetic monks who helped Buddha to achieve his goal thought that, oh, he's giving up his enthusiasm to become a Buddha. So they left the Buddha. So after enlightenment, Buddha went to see them, and all five of them first had an idea, no, we don't pay any respect, because he gave up his willingness to attain the Nibbana. So but when Buddha comes close to them, they couldn't hold their that stubborn idea. They came and respected, but they still never believed that Buddha is now attained the Buddhahood. At that time, Buddha said that, have I ever said you to, I have enlightened? Then they said no. So now I am saying, so since I haven't said a lie like that, so you have to believe. So at that very moment, the Kondanya, there were five monks, Kondanya, Vapabhadya, Mahanamasaji. The Kondanya had a great faith towards what Buddha, confidence. So all five listened to the Buddha's teaching. It called the setting the motion on Dhamma wheel. That means this teaching is like a wheel. So when it's set to motion, when it turning, no way of turning it back, because it says the reality. So what is the reality is teaching? There is a universal truth called suffering, that it doesn't matter whether we like or dislike. This world has suffering because of the reason. Why this world has a suffering? Because of the ego or the clinging. That is the second truth. The third truth is the cessation of suffering. And there is a state called cessation of suffering, and that's a truth. And there is a path to cessation of that suffering. So that's the fourth noble truth. So Buddha delivered this discourse. So if you are not sure how this word is put in the group called the suffering, in the first session, you can go through the recorded audio, the YouTube video. I'll brief it. It's like this. When we say we are living, we born to this world, that which means we have six sense faculties. We have eyes, we have ears, we have nose, we have tongue, we have body, and we have mind. So no one can say that we are living if we don't have these six sense faculties. So our existence means in here these six sense faculties. So if someone's saying that I'm saying anything other than this, Buddha saying it's just a word when we ask questions like what it is really. The I is something subject to change. When something's changing, it's not according to a particular wish or will, it's changing and decaying and dying. Ears also changing, subject to change. Nose, subject to change. Tongue, subject to change. Body, subject to change. Mind, subject to change. When things subject to change, so it's not in a way which we like or not. So it's like think like this, like if I ask you to, okay, bring to your mind, visualize the delicious banana you would like to eat. So since we all human, we will visualize a nice yellow color delicious banana. So in case if a worm listen to this, he will visualize that spoiled banana because that's the one he's like to have. But banana doesn't have only that two state. Banana start from that banana flower, and it has all life different uh, levels. So what the thing is, as human, we like to one level, and worms like to different levels. Likewise, so it doesn't matter whether we like or whether we cling. Everything subject to change. The same thing goes with the six sense faculties. So even though we believe this is me or mine or myself, everything rising and falling subject to change. So therefore it called the suffering. There is a reason to suffer, because Arahant also, after attaining the enlightenment, even though he is having this physical, these sense faculties, but we don't say that he is suffering. Why? The suffering is there because of the clinging attachment. So once that attachment is not to these five aggregates of clingings, which lead to clingings, that suffering is no longer there. The cause for the suffering is clinging, and the third universal truth or the noble truth is cessation of suffering. There is a real state, the real truth in this world. We can overcome from all the sufferings, and there is a path to that, which is noble eightfold path. Noble eightfold path means, in here, if you may remember, right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Right view means seeing things as it is. That means seeing suffering as suffering, seeing cause for the suffering as cause for the suffering, seeing cessation of suffering as cessation of suffering, and seeing path to cessation of suffering as path to cessation of suffering. So if you can remember the sutta, it starts with Buddha saying that as a monk, we shouldn't practice two paths. One is going to sensual pleasures. Buddha did that before he was a king. It's not a path to fulfillment. And giving pain, he did that before, and it's not also path to the happiness. The five ascetics were believed that. And then saying there is a middle way. That means not going to the pain or to that too much sensual pleasures, which is this middle way, is seeing things as it is, which means seeing suffering as suffering, cause for the suffering, cessation of suffering, and path to cessation of suffering. And with that, the noble eightfold path. But after teaching this, he is saying that this is the introduction for today. Now we are learning what we didn't learn from in the last week. So Buddha saying there are three paces in each truth. So 3 by 4, there are 12. So that means we have to learn what are the three phases of each truth. So it's an important thing. In there, we can find that every human being in their life, they are doing something. But since they don't know truth as truth, they are doing false as believing the truth. Okay, let's go through it. So, Buddha saying, this is the noble truth of suffering. Let me read it for you. This is noble truth of suffering. Thus, because in regard to things unheard before, there arose in me vision, knowledge, wisdom, true knowledge, and light. This is the noble truth of suffering. So now you know that when we say noble, so why we say it's a universal thing, right? Not like, why do we say noble to suffering? So you may feel like that. And noble truth of suffering, Buddha understood that. First, he understood that this is a suffering and this is the suffering. So that means he fully understood this is exactly suffering. So what is the difference between us and Buddha? So what do you think we are learning? This is the noble truth of suffering. So while we are learning, if someone comes to you and give you a Tesla Y model key and saying that, hey, this car for you, then you don't feel it's a suffering. You will leave the meeting and you will go and check your new gift. Why? We don't feel it's a suffering. And but if something like that happened to Buddha, Buddha's mind never shake like that. I can remember the roots where this teach comes from, maybe from Zen tradition. I'm not sure where it comes. So one day, one monk, he seems to be very popular, and king wanted to give him a massive amount of money and as a gift. So while he's meditating, he kept a big money parcel in front of him, and the monk still meditating, and then but the king was upset because no blessings, no thank you, just meditating like it, no, no attention even to the, because it's a huge amount of money. Then after frustration, he's saying, "Why don't you say me thank you?" Then that monk saying, "You should say thank you to me. Now this problem is mine. Because I have to figure out a way to do something to do to this." If it happens to us, we feel like, because we already have things to do, which we clinged in our life. If someone give you a basket of money, then you will feel like, oh, I will do this, I will do that. And if you are a devoted devotee, at least you will feel like, oh, okay, I'll construct a monastery from this. That's how it works. But one who does not have any attachment, it's like a snake. So one time, while Buddha going by with Ananda, so seeing a precious some jewelry or something, and see Buddha saying that, Ananda, did you see the snake? It's not a snake, it's a jewelry. But when there is something precious, it creates sufferings. And there are some stories. So those days when monks used to live in jungle areas also and forests. So one day, thieves like they stole some jewelries from the king, and when they are running by, once they understood that they will caught by the police, they put that jewelry into that monk's bowl. Monk is having a bath. So when the police going by, they see that it's like, um, they found the thief. They don't know what already has happened. But that monk went through severe problems after that. So likewise, even though we feel like happiness, it contains the suffering. So we have to understand that The suffering is suffering. It doesn't matter. So that we in our lives we seek happiness in the suffering. It's like this. Someone want to smell jasmine flower or jasmine or that pure odor is still inside that what it called that the tank which is in the underground.
Septic
Yeah, the
tank.
septic tank. So likewise, we seek happiness, we seek the fragrance, even still in the septic tank. When someone understands this as a reality, they see this is a suffering. So when someone understanding this is suffering, that doesn't mean that he's like throwing away all his wealth. We shouldn't misunderstand like that. He understand the danger. That's what it happened. So there was a stream entrant lady. She stream entrant when she was 7 years old. Her name was Vishaka. She, you know that in Indian culture they marry like in 16. She married in 16 and she had 32 babies, and it's not a miracle. Nowadays also there is a woman in Africa, she has 36. She had so much of wealth in her life and she wear nice beautiful jewelries, but she had that understanding this suffering. So why I'm describing this, we have to clear our mind that understanding something as suffering is does not mean that you are afraid of using that. If you have that, if you are not a monk, because monk has a different lifestyle, if you eat pizza, you're probably eating pizza because you couldn't prepare your lunch by yourself, or you couldn't go and eat in a restaurant, because pizza is something we don't consider it's like a rich food. But when it comes to countries like Sri Lanka, if someone say like I went to Pizza Hut, they publish it in Instagram even. Why? To them, it's kind of a luxurious material. So they depend on their situation. That's why when I'm saying that if someone is a rich person, if he understood this as suffering, that doesn't mean that he's not using that. Only thing is his mind is still stable, even worse things happen to his wealth or anything. Why? He all know that it's a suffering. So Buddha understood this is a suffering as the suffering as suffering. Then the second thing is what we should do to it. When we understand its suffering, doing thing is understanding it. It's the truth. We expect fragrance even being in the septic tank. When we experience that bad smell, what we do? We seek rose fragrance somewhere in the same septic tank. We don't want to understand its suffering, think that we are getting sick and think that we are decay and we are experiencing these sufferings in our lives, or think that one someone we really care suddenly die pass. So at that time we are not ready to understand suffering. We expect may it does not happen, or may it didn't happen. So likewise, why we expect happiness in here. So if someone understood this is a suffering and this is exact suffering, then the doing thing is understanding it. Whenever he meet suffering, he understand it. The third phase is completing the understanding. That means once fully understood that the suffering is suffering, his mind is free. If someone understood this suffering as a doing thing, and when he completed that, he is an enlightened person. Then second is cause for the suffering. Okay, the cause for the suffering, First, we have to understand this is the exact cause for the suffering. In that case also, usually people misunderstanding it often. Think that someone come to meet you and insult you, criticize you. So, what is the cause for the suffering? Almost every human being. That person, right? But when someone understood that cause for the suffering is clinging, attachment to the, we learned about framing our mind. In Sunday classes, in person classes more often, we frame that this is me and this is my personality, this is my point of view. No one should bother it, no one should disturb it. So when someone tell something against to that, we feel anger. And but if someone understood that the reason is that the already my mind is framed with attachments and clingings, when someone blame, if he feel hurt, eventually what happens, he see the frame, he feel the pain and he see the frame. He feel the pain and he see the frame. So because of that, when he feel hurt, his first intention is to overcome from this clinging. Yes, of course, because he still have these stains in his mind, he may say a word or two, because in the first stage, second stage, or until the third stage, anger can create defilements in person's mind. But even though that create the pain, his mind does not want to find the cause from the outer world. That means uh, from what he see, what he hear, what he smell, what he taste, what he experience, what from in the thoughts even, he see the cause and effect. So he see that the attachment, the clinging is the suffering. Think that you are a super fan of some sort of sport, and so when your team loses, you feel pain a lot. And after sometimes you are busy with your busy by because of busy with the other things. After sometimes you almost forget that you had this great enthusiasm to this sport, and then after like a couple of years later, you see that your team is losing. It's just a news. Why? Now you don't have attachment as you had in the previous past. So when you have attachment, you feel pain. So we are framing ourselves like this is me, this is mine, and this is myself, and this is my culture, this is my point of view, this is my political view, this is so many things. So you know what? When we frame ourselves, even this is like this, you may feel angry even the other person is having the opposite view, but you may feel angry the other person being neutral. There are people like that. When the others being neutral, when you're biased to something, you feel pain. That's how it works. So we have to understand this is the cause for the suffering, and to that is what? Eradicate. But what the usually living beings do, like not only humans, when we feel craving or clinging to something, we are not ready to eradicate that. We want to keep it. It's like if someone insult us, we want to keep our personality, and we want to eradicate that person. That's how our mind works. That's that's why our problems never end. Why? we have to fight with 8 billion humans to keep our frame, because all the others are in the other side. Then we feel like I won from here this time, in this time, but in the next time think that you feel like offended at the grocery shop, and you show your power, and you feel like, oh, okay, I won. You keep your frame. Once you get into your vehicle and driving, again someone tailgate, then again you feel hurt in your frame. So there is no end. At least you don't have any problem like that. Once you go home and you are waiting to have your dinner, and your wife prepared another meal which you haven't expected, everything can be framed suffering. So likewise, so cause for the suffering, we have to understand it, and what we should do to that is we have to eradicate that. The third phase is, once we come to realization that completely eradicated. If someone come to that level, again an arahant, then the cessation of suffering. First, we have to understand that as a noble truth, suffering end by ending the attachments. Suffering never end by the other party saying sorry to you. Suffering never end by when you win a Super Bowl lottery. Suffering never ends. Uh, One who is upset with you uh, come and saying that, no, I'm not upset with you. I would like to be friend. Suffering never ends like that. Suffering ends when attachments end. That should be the exact thing we have to understand. So what is the doing thing to that? It says Satchikatabba. It translate here, it's like realized. It's like in here realized means like um attain to that level. It's like eradicating the clinging and coming to that level. Satchikatabba. Do you have any other nice translation to Satchikatabba? Anyone? That means we still don't have that level, and by eradicating the ego, coming to that level. Doing thing is that, and completion of that is fully eradicating the ego and attain to that. So the fourth noble truth is path to cessation of suffering. So understanding that this is the exact path to cessation of suffering. That's what first phase. Second phase is what we should do. Doing thing is practice in there, and completion is the third one. So that means that's where the different we can, and we should see that if you see that the path to cessation of suffering is noble eightfold path, no one should come and knock your door and say, hey, let's go to meditation class. No one wants to keep on remembering you, because that's the path to cessation of suffering. What you are practicing, like understanding it, but you know that uh, when you have that idea, it doesn't matter you have the other wishes, other expectations, and everything in your life, but even though you are in middle of so much of happiness, your mind say, hey, I haven't completed this. I need to complete this. I need to practice this. I need to practice this. That's always your mind talks to you. It's like ringing your bell inside you. So no one can like eliminate that ringing inside you, that bell in you. Because you always have that wish when you understand this is the exact path to cessation of suffering. So, second pace is doing, the third pace is realization. That means the completion of that. So, we learned what are the Four Noble Truths and what is the usual human beings doing to that, and what as one who sees doing to that, and what is the completion. As an example, when it comes to suffering, people doing what they wish, what they should do to the second noble truth. When we experience suffering, we want to eradicate that, but it is something to understand. When it comes to second noble truth, cause for the suffering, we want to hug it, but that's what we have to eradicate. When it comes to third noble truth, we wish it, may it happen to me somehow, but we have to attain it. The fourth noble truth, again, we discuss about it, but we have to do practice. Buddha saying that until he understood about four noble truths in these three paces, until then, he never ever claimed to this world, I have attained the Buddhahood. That means realized everything in the life. But once, Buddha saying, once I understood this in these three paces, then altogether 12, after that, I claim to this world where there are the other invisible living beings, Deva, Mara, Brahma, and all living beings and all around the Samana Brahmana means other ascetics around them. I claim that I'm the Buddha. Then Buddha saying, he's saying that it's all the Sihanada. Sihanada means that powerful statements. Uh, he's saying that the knowledge and vision arose with me. Unshakable is the liberation of my mind. Akuppame cheto vimukti. The Buddha has the realization that my mind, liberation, is unshakable. There is no way of shaking it. This is the last birth, no birth again. Now there is no more renewed existence. So, and this is what the Blessed One said. Later, the bhikkhus of the group of five delighted in the Blessed One's statement, and while this discourse was being spoken, there arose in the Venerable Kondanya the dust-free. Dust-free means no defilements, stainless vision of Dhamma. That means, so there, even though we know this truth, there is a reason to not to attain to the first stage of stream or the stream entrance, which is our mind covered with defilements. That's what we call dust. What are the defilements? Our mind covered with anger, lust, conceit, and there are so many things in the what Tupama Sutta describing. It's like Buddha saying, if someone wants to dye a thing that is a t-shirt or cloth in a one color, he's putting that cloth into that red dye, but it contains stains and dirt. So even though it get dye, but it does not get the right color we expecting. Why? It contains the stains. So likewise, until we purify our mind, we don't see this truth as exact truth. So once we see this truth as exact truth, we don't want to defend what we are believing, and then it's a kind of a achievement and or the attainment. Once someone attained that, it's not returning. It's keep on progressing. So you don't want to protect your faith, even the rest of the world against you. You are in the Buddha's side. That's what Buddha is saying. Why? He see things as it is. The Kondanya, the dust-free stainless vision of Dhamma, which arose in him, whatever is subject to origination is all subject to cessation. That's what he realized. Whatever is subject to origination is all subject to cessation. So this is the realization gate. So think that we have a mind like no frame to frame, this is me or mine or myself. And with that frameless mind, what we can see, whatever arise, it will cease. Other than this, there is nothing to experience in this world. Because all the other values, this is good and this is worthy, which have given from our frames. When we remove all those frames, we can see only one thing. Yeah, there are things. It's not like empty world. There are things conditioned, rising and falling. Okay. And when the wheel of Dhamma had been set in motion by the Blessed One, the earth-dwelling Deva, so it says that in Buddhist teachings, it mentions like there are 6 sensual pleasure divinely world, and them and the Brahma world, Brahmins, also delighted and discussed, like they amazed, and they said that this Dhamma wheel is never turned back. This is amazing teaching. So this Dhamma wheel is no way of turning back, and even now, because if someone want to turn this back, they have to prove that suffering is no longer suffering. Cause for the suffering is no longer cause for the suffering. Cessation of suffering is no longer cessation of suffering. Path to cessation of suffering is no longer path to cessation of suffering. It won't happen in this world. Because Buddha never invented something. Buddha realized what's or the existence, what is really existing in this world. So when we learn the teachings like this, we feel freedom because we don't want to protect our confidence or faith or anything. What we have to do is understand and realize this, practice this Dhamma until the realization. So today we learned a nice sutta, and by the power of this merit, may all of us able to attain the bliss of happiness, Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So today we together learn a nice Buddha's teaching, the first teaching of the Buddha, and accumulated many merits. So let's share all the merits with all the divinely powers. May they be well and may they be happy. May they rejoice the merits we accumulated. May they experience the bliss of happiness. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's share all the blessings with our good karma, with our past relatives. May they be well, may they be happy in their destination, and may they able to experience the bliss of happiness. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's share all the good karma blessings with our teacher, Pinat Lokuswaminans, and all the monastic monks who voluntarily teach in the teachings of the Buddha to the community. May monks be well and happy. May monks able to understand Four Noble Truths in this Gautama Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's share all the merits and good karma with all of you. May you all be well and may you all be happy. May you all good wishes come true, and may you all able to understand the Four Noble Truths in this Gautama Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sorry, Bante. Allow us to share merit with Bante and ask for forgiveness. Dhamma friends, you can join me for this section. Okasa wandami Bante. Maya katang punyang samina anumoditapang.
Sadhu, sadhu, anumodami.
Samina katang punyang mayhang datapang.
Sadhu, sadhu, anumodita.
Sadhu, sadhu anumodami. Okasa dwaratena. Katang sabang aceng kamatami Bante.
Kamami,
Okasa kamami Bante. Dutiyampi okasa kamami Bante. Tatiyampi okasa kamami Bante. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you,
Namo
Bante. Namo.